Hey everyone, I'm Haley. I'm a student of strategic communications. Let's sharpen our media literacy skills together. This is How to Push Back.
People claiming that Donald Trump is some sort of narcissist or something like that. And it's taken me a while to realize this, but the truth is, I think Donald Trump is the most selfless politician I've ever seen. And the reason is because he puts all of his interests aside and replaces it with the interests of the American people. And nobody in Washington has ever done that before.
In this clip, we're seeing the kind of praise that moves into deification of a political figure. Calling Donald Trump the most selfless politician flips common associations. What they're doing is turning political power into a form of personal sacrifice. That kind of framing, I think, invites admiration, but it also discourages critique.
We have to ask them, where do your loyalties lie? Do your loyalties lie with the American people, or does it lie with Donald Trump? And consistently, these so-called moderates have chosen Donald Trump over the American people, and we should hold them accountable, and we should drive them out of power.
This clip uses a false dichotomy. They're framing the choice as either siding with Donald Trump or siding with the American people. It's emotionally charged and rhetorically effective, but it simplifies some really complex political realities. When a conversation becomes all or nothing, it's harder to hear the nuance.
Hours, peace is breaking out all over the entire planet. There's so much good stuff that is going on all around this country and even around the world because of President Trump. It's great. And you look at that comparison.
So here we pretty clearly have a moment of hyperbole. The speaker credits President Trump with global peace. This is obviously a pretty bold and unqualified claim. Statements like this bypass the need for evidence by relying on emotional impact. They feel good to hear, but they also make it harder to evaluate outcomes critically.
Built on a lie, that there are masses of welfare kings and welfare kings who are simply sitting on their couches and playing video games and living off the system. That is a lie. The majority of people on SNAP and Medicaid are working people. And of those who are unemployed, most of them are students or caregivers or those who are homeless or those with temporary disabilities. The number of people who are able-bodied and simply refuse to work is vanishingly small. It's less than 1% of enrollees in both SNAP and Medicaid. The majority of people on SNAP are families with children, senior citizens, and those with disabilities. And in New York State, most of the Medicaid dollars are spent on the elderly and the disabled. The largest category of Medicaid enrollees are children. These are programs that almost exclusively benefit those in greatest need. And
what we're seeing here is a rebuttal to a popular stereotype. And it's a moment of what we call corrective framing. Instead of emotion, the speaker is using facts. Most people on SNAP and Medicaid are workers, children, or elderly. This is a reminder that media can clarify, not just persuade.
Just looked at the border alone. I would argue that that is the single greatest campaign promise ever kept in American history of politics.
What I'm seeing here is an example of superlative framing. Words like greatest ever are meant to impress more than inform. That kind of language can stir pride, but it also skips the details.
Every hospital in my district is in the red or teetering on the brink and depends fundamentally on Medicaid. And so the Republican reconciliation bill is a catastrophe. You know, when America sneezes, the Bronx gets the flu, and the Bronx is going to be the hardest hit by the $1 trillion cut to Medicaid and the $300 billion cut to SNAP.
This clip leans really heavily on emotional language. It describes the bill as a catastrophe and a betrayal. These words communicate urgency and moral stakes, but they also raise the emotional volume, which can make discussion harder for people outside the in-group. All right, everyone, thanks for joining me. I think my takeaway from today is that rhetoric isn't just about what it's said, but how it's said and how it makes us feel. I think some language invites thinking and some language demands agreement. Learning to break that down gives us the power to choose for ourselves. All right, everybody, I'm Haley. Thanks for watching How to Push Back. We'll see you next time.